Hi everyone, my name is Smaya, and I'm going to be talking about cultural experiences that I experienced during my time in Kuranda. This past weekend, my friends and I decided to take a trip up to Cairns to see the Great Barrier Reef and the Kuranda night markets. And as we headed into Queensland, we realized how much of a difference it would be from what we were used to back in the States and in Sydney. Right off the bat, we saw differences in the demographic of people and the way the city was set up. One of the things that we experienced was a large Lunar New Year festival in the heart of Cairns. On our last day in Cairns, we decided to go up to Kuranda, and when I tell you my friends and I were shocked because of what we experienced, that would be an understatement. We had experienced collectivist culture like we had never seen before in Australia or even in the States. An example I have of this is when I went in to buy a t-shirt in a little business. I had run out of cash and realized that none of the markets took card. Once I realized I had run out of cash, I told the store owner I would put the t-shirt back, and he stopped me and he said, "Just give me one moment." He went to the back, brought out a bag, put it in the bag, and wrapped it for me nicely and handed it to me. He told me he just wanted me to have a good time here and that making money was not his priority. He just wanted to see me happy with that shirt. I was ecstatic. That shirt was the cutest thing I had ever bought on this trip and was able to get it for free just because I had forgotten to bring a little bit extra cash. This is the type of kindness that we see in collectivist cultures that I was privileged enough to experience in Kuranda. In a collectivist culture, a lot of things such as harmony, conflict avoidance, and peace are extremely valuable. I could see this in the way the people in Kuranda treated each other and treated themselves. There's a lot of independence in the way each store had its own personality, but also in the way that they interacted with one another and considered each other family, although they were also considered competitors in the market. Another example of collectivist culture that I had experienced during my time in Kuranda was seeing how each business person treated each other. Although they were competitors, it was obvious that they cared about each other deeply. They bought food from each other, even though they had food businesses of their own to support each other's businesses. It was this that made me realize how important it is to preserve these collectivist cultures, even when we don't have one in our own homes. The store owner in the back of this picture told me that after visiting 40 different countries, the kindness he had experienced in Kuranda was the reason why he came back 6 years later and decided to stay here. People just seemed extremely happy in Kuranda, and when you ask anyone who lives there, they say that out of all the places that had ever visited, Kuranda was the one place that they always remembered. This is something that I think I'll take with me for the rest of my life as well. Being in Kuranda was like a spiritual experience with how kind and happy and peaceful everyone was. The serenity I felt there was nothing like I'd ever felt before. Another example of collectivist culture that I saw in Kuranda was that families worked together and parents brought their children to work. A lot of the children were roaming free, barefooted, in the jungle. Some store owners took it upon themselves to invite them over for a small tea party or lunch or dessert. I thought this was a very nice gesture and something that I would never see in a place like Los Angeles, New York, or even Sydney. I think the reason why I felt a lot of culture shock being in Kuranda more than I did being in Sydney was because Sydney is a bustling city just like Los Angeles where I grew up. Everything is sort of fast-paced and everyone is just always busy, goes where they need to go. People aren't as friendly on the streets, which is understandable because of the culture. But this was so different in Kuranda. It reminded me of being in Burma, another place that has a collectivist culture, where life is a little bit slower and not as bustling as major cities. On Hofstede's website, you can compare different countries to see how they rank in the different cultural indexes. The US and Australia rank very similarly in collectivism and individualism. However, America is a little bit higher in individualism, and I think Kuranda brings down its individualism rank just a little bit. If someone has never experienced an individualistic culture before, I highly recommend Kuranda. It is a great experience, and I learned a lot. From its beautiful waterfalls to the lush green tropical rainforest, these photos don't do it justice. It was an absolutely beautiful place with so many beautiful people, and I wish I had gotten to stay there a little bit longer. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you learned a little bit more about Australia and my cultural experience in Kuranda.